Okay, so who wants to start the ball? Okay, so I saw over here. Yeah.
This is probably more of a question for Keith. With regard to one of your rules in terms of having 2.4 and 5 gig on having different SSIDs for them, can you discuss that in relation to many of the vendors have band select, band steering, those sorts of things where the access point is deliberately not talking on 2.4 gig to force them to go across so they don't think it actually exists?
Sure, I can answer that. If it worked, all of the 5 gig devices would be on 5 gig. It doesn't work. Now, here's the reason why it doesn't work. The first time up, a client comes up, probes on 2.4, the AP says, oh, sorry, I'm going to ignore you, and it won't answer the probe request. Second, third, fourth, fifth. Pretty soon the AP's going, but what if he can't? What if he can't? He won't go, no, and then he answers. And so you can dial up how much band select you want, but even at the max, it still will eventually let someone in on 2.4. Because if it worked, 100% of the devices would be on 5 gig. Yet, if you turn around and you do the SSID thing, it works every single time. Because every 5 gig device that is ever on a 2.4 AP is having a bad day. He's having a worse day than he would have a 7.5. Worse, if a 5 gig client was on a 2.4, he's making the guys who have no other place to go have a bad day. So it's a double whammy.
So the client has both SSIDs programmed into it?
No, you only want to have one SSID program. I mean, that's the whole point. And so what you'll need to do, let's say your current SSID is Corp. You want Corp to be the 5 gig only. And then 2.4, you could call it Corp 2.4 sucks. Oh no. How about Corp _ legacy? And then if anyone complains and the lady with the iPhone 4 says, I can't see Corp anymore, and you say, oh no, we made one just for you.
You good? So is that a hat or a book?
Both.
Sure you want to take that, right?
He's got both. So actually, let me reintroduce everybody because I don't know, Mark Krischer's changed formation over here on the front. So we've got Matt over here from Mist, we've got Aaron from Aruba, and I'll get Stephen to introduce himself.
I'm Stephen Cooper, Technical Solutions Architect for Cisco, and I'm Mark Krischer.
But he's representing the Cisco guys up here. And then Keith and UC, you need no introduction, I think. So, okay, next question. I saw one over there. Yeah. Good exercise.
Hello. We have a lot of customers that they have warehouses and the access points they have upgraded, the clients they have upgraded. Both support 3211N. We have a lot of multipathing problem. But because their encryption is really old, they connected 802.11g. Do they still, that function that helps with the multipathing problem still exist, or it requires 802.11n connectivity?
Are you talking about you're still running web?
They are running web or WPA1.
Okay, so web has problems, and so the IEEE made a decision when they came out with 802.11n. They said, if you are so stupid you're still going to run web, we're going to punish you, and the fastest you can ever go is 54 meg. That's what G was, and because you're not going to improve your security, we're going to punish you and not let you go anymore. So part of your problem could just be that by turning on web, you limit it. You could have a AC AP Wave 2 that can go 1.3 gig, and if you turn on web, you're maxed at 54 meg.
I think he's asking whether you're asking whether the multipath is taken care of by the DSP.
Yeah. That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, N takes benefits of multipath, G does not. It's plain and simple as that. So you will not get the benefits if you're.
So if they don't upgrade the encryption, you will not get that benefit.
That's how I see it. Yeah.
So you said that they've upgraded the clients?
Client
The APs are N, the clients are N.
Yeah.
Why would you still be running an old encryption?
Because there are a lot of old terminals that they're not supporting more than web. So they have to keep it. So the number of these.
Oh, so you're saying you do have N clients, but you also have G only clients.
Correct.
And so
But-
the SSID has to support them both, so the punishment's the same.
Correct.
Yeah. So the MCS, I'm sorry, not the MCS, MRC, the maximal ratio combining that he talked about earlier to put them back together, is in the N chipset. So the N chip is actually putting those back together. It doesn't need diversity.
Okay.
So they should be getting the best of. So if you have, now are your new clients one stream or two stream? Because if a client is N and one stream, there's no MRC, and basically it's as bad as the old G's were. It doesn't have any ability to recombine the waves.
They're vocal like Talkman terminals. I think you're one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good question. So,
Sounds like a case for one of your systems integrators, for example, or one of the guys here, and you take another look and really drill down to the details on what's going on, and then go from there. Keith is happy to help, right? At $8,000 per day. So sorry, it's 7,000, right?
so we do have Jim here as well. Jim, you're just hiding here, right? Okay. So if you have questions for Jim, we'll take those as well. But next question.
This is a question for everyone, including Jim. Troubleshooting question. We've got our network. It's perfectly designed. We use the cow. Everything is right. But we have connectivity issues. I've never really read anywhere, and I've read a lot of books where people actually talk about debugging that the issue is the client. I've got a magic command, net sh in IP reset and reboot. But how do you actually debug what the client is doing wrong?
Packet capture.
So packet capture tells you what's happening between the access point and the client, right? So that's going to give you more insight as to what's happening than what you'll ever get out of a client device drive. It doesn't matter if it's Windows or iOS or Android. They're very limited in what you're going to better get from a debugging point of view. So unless you can tap into that specific driver stack, and they're all different, as Keith and other people have already talked about, actually looking at what's happening over there at the PHY layer and the MAC layer, that's where you're going to get most of the answers from.
There is a company in Sweden called 7Lab that if you have Windows clients, they have a little driver shim that sits between the OS and the driver, and it will give you some details in how that client driver saw the error and then how it made a decision. So the roaming decision could be exposed, but only with Windows clients or Windows CE or Android. So a couple people have some solutions that focus on that.
So, and I talked to a lot of you during the break and all that. So for some, packet capture is more familiar. For others, it's something mystical, which it truly can be. So, packet capture, you can actually you have a sidekick. You have an Ekahau sidekick. Okay.
So you need to buy a sidekick.
Says the sales guy. With Ekahau Sidekick, you can actually capture packets on 2 channels simultaneously all the time. That's in beta, but if you want it, just let me know. And just fire it up on the channel that the client is on currently, and where it's, let's say, where it's likely to roam next. For example, if it's a roaming problem. Capture the packets using Sidekick. It's a super simple, just select the channels and go. And then the end result is a file format PCAP, a PCAP file, which basically is the industry standard for packet captures. And then any one of your friends who has a packet analysis tool can open that file up, decode the packet, see, you just tell him what the problematic client was, he can take a look at like, okay, here I can see it, you know, it's associated, authenticated, blah, blah, blah. It seems like, yeah, it didn't get an IP address because of DHCP or whatever. So just take a packet capture and send it to one of your high-paid friends who can then, you know, help you out to troubleshoot the issue. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Good question. He's got a hat, so he gets a both.
What about a sidekick?
That one you gotta pay for, man.
I actually have 2 questions, but I'll bit. So the first question will be if Keith explained about the MCS and how every client device make the decision differently, and how they can move from the different MCS depending on SNR or RSSI. But my first question is anything planned in the Wi-Fi standard or an agreement that we're gonna have a common decision process or thinking process of how we can
No.
do that? And the second question.
And the reason is every vendor, both the clients and APs, holds that really proprietary close to their chest, how the process works. Some spending millions and millions of dollars on tuning how theirs works, and they don't want to share. Two, in the entire nearly 20-year history of the Wi-Fi Alliance, not once has a client been tested roaming. So all of the Wi-Fi Alliance stickers that are on there say, oh yeah, we're Wi-Fi certified, have never tested roaming. And so the issue you're talking about is, how do we test roaming? Well, we can't test it if we don't know there's no standard. So, no standard. Question two?
Question two is about, and this is for everyone, what are you thinking or what are the risks if LTE is approved, and how the Wi-Fi industry is going to be, if it's going to exist, or if, how we're going to work together?
My view is...
First, explain LTE-U to the audience.
Sure, so using wireless WAN-based technology, but using it in unlicensed frequency space. So the concern would be that LTE-U starts overstepping on Wi-Fi frequency and then causing problems with interference. My view is that a lot of the value to the customers of deploying Wi-Fi is about the data, and he who operates the network controls the data. And so I think there's a vested interest in customers deploying Wi-Fi networks themselves, because they're then in control of the data and not the service provider themselves. So I think there's just at that level, there's a reasonable grounds for a private Wi-Fi network because it's operated by the customer and they have the data. That's my view.
I guess from my perspective, it's if the FCC is going to go, the FCC have approved it, haven't they, 6 gig? Yeah. And if we get a 6 gig extension on Wi-Fi, then...
Explain 6 gig.
So it's the FCC in the US have opened up some more spectrum for Wi-Fi usage. So over heaps, so heaps more than what we've already got. So it gives us a lot more channels and to kind of work out the rules. But if the LTE was to come and stomp all over 5 gig, well, maybe we just move up to 6, and we've still got 2.4 is usable, and I guess we'll kind of at some point have a happy medium when everyone gets along, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with Matt and Aaron. I don't really see it as a big threat, especially in the enterprise space, especially with 6 gigahertz coming along, giving us more space to play in. And as Matt mentioned, data is key, and that control and security is not going to go away. Those requirements aren't going to change. So I think it's just one of those things where there's a bit of misinformation, and there's people that are misinformed about 5G and LTE-U and what does it all mean to coexistence with Wi-Fi. So it's on us as Wi-Fi professionals to make sure that our customers and partners are educated on it. So that's why we have events like Wi-Fi Design Day, so we can all be up to date on the latest technologies and have these discussions and share ideas and keep on top.
Sorry, I just totally disagree. If LTE wins, Wi-Fi loses. Because the technique that we use in Wi-Fi is we listen before we talk, and there's a randomization to keep them all apart. LTE comes in and stomps smack on top of us. No matter what they do, and they say they do, if LTE is available to come in, Wi-Fi in that frequency dies. Now, if we have another frequency to jump to, fine. It's still going to be years before we get hardware up there. The whole reason the cell companies want it is because they love ARPU, average revenue per user. And they have free unlicensed spectrum versus paying billions for their licensed spectrum. They want a land grab. If they take it, we don't have it. It's plain and simple.
Yeah, I do share Keith's concerns as well, but I do agree with the gentleman said. It is a bit worrying, but and there's different standards or different proposals for this coexistence. There's LTU and LAA and multiplier and all this kind of stuff, and I haven't followed it enough to say like who wins or has won exactly, but I think the worst of proposals, which I think was LTU, may not make it, and it might be something like more like LWA or something like that, where perhaps the guys are more interoperable and play nicer together. But it is a fact that the more bits and bytes you transmit, the more bits and bytes cellular operators transmit over Wi-Fi frequencies, the less traditional Wi-Fi does. And the concern I have is whether it's that LTU, LAA, or 5G or whatever. Wi-Fi has always been this kind of rogue cowboy technology where it's free of charge for anyone to put it up, and because of economies of scale, Wi-Fi has become pretty cheap to design and deploy. The hardware doesn't cost that much. Now enter LTU or 5G, the same frequencies. How much does it cost to deploy Wi-Fi access points? Let's talk infrastructure cost plus deployment cost versus a 5G access point. 5G is probably 10 times more expensive, something like that. Whose benefit is it to have an indoor network that's 10 times more expensive and does about the same thing compared to 10 times less? That's my concern here. What's that?
And complexity of management. Like,
yeah,
have you looked
exactly.
at how you operate a 4G network and what the skills that you require to do that? Whereas Wi-Fi has really been on this path to simplification so that anyone can deploy it. It's all
Yeah, the concern here is what Keith said, all about money. So operators and the big chip vendors, silicon vendors, they are really pushing LTE, LAA, 5G and all that, and not to make anybody a bad guy, but there's a lot of money behind it for a reason. Of course, there's a lot of money in consumers' hands that everybody would like to capitalize. And of course, like if you can either charge people for using a network in this bar or not, the businessmen will choose one and not the other.
There's a really simple way to look at this. If a cell carrier wants to use LTE in the unlicensed band, one, they are so much more efficient than Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a terrible steward of spectrum. We have a ton of dead air just waiting for the triggers to work. They are way better at it than we are. But if they really cared, they wouldn't require every answer they have. There's an anchor channel up in licensed, so no one but someone who's paid $1 billion can even play, but they're putting 98% of all the traffic on unlicensed. With this hook, it says, oh, and you just have to also have this other piece. So no enterprise can play, no other vendor can play other than those.
Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So basically, wait and see. Right? You need to wait and see what we
Yeah, man, did we give him a hat? That was a great question. A hat
and a book.
And a book.
So, Keith, I'd like to just add something to that. There is a massive problem with any type of LAA, LTE, and 5G moving into that spectrum band. I don't think 5G will, because it's got plenty of high millimeter wave bands to move into, which have far more spectrum. But if you allow carriers in this country to come into that band, it will destroy every Wi-Fi network in the region. Right? So if you care about Wi-Fi, you actually need to resist this aggressively. Do not accept it. Right? Any operator, and it is not restricted to operators. Private controllers can deploy their own as well, and they don't need to have the anchor. And it will totally destroy Wi-Fi because it just overpowers it, and it's the thresholds for listening to talk, as well as the receiver sensitivities and the power outputs are much higher.
And the other side of that question, you said, when people hear 5G, they think it's LTU, LAA, LW. It's not. 5G is an entirely different thing. And we get them all mixed up. And now we have Wi-Fi 5.
Is there anybody from a telecom operator here that would like to... No, it would be, no, in all fairness, it would be nice to hear that side of the coin, because we're Wi-Fi biased, let's be honest. There's not. Okay, that's all good, but everybody has their reasons, right? So, next question.
Next question. Oh, a lot of hands going up. Okay. Whoever's closest to me, so I don't have to walk so far.
Thank you. To Keith. You mentioned earlier when troubleshooting at minimum basic rates, you really looked at the retry levels. Now, taking wireless captures, now, is there any other thing that could actually point at and make the decision? Because when you call it out to a client, you kind of want to be 100% sure that that's the case.
So there's nothing in the Wi-Fi protocol that as the frames are going across the air, they don't carry, like there's a retry bit, but if it's the first time, there's no retry bit. The second time the bit's on, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, it stays on. So there's no internal piece inside that's being carried. So you have to have something externally captured on to even get the ratios. So it's a packet capture solution. There are some that do it better and faster and easier, but even the free Wireshark that's listening in there, if you put the filters in and you ask it the right question, it will tell you what's the retry rate. I had a friend of mine named Brian Long wrote a Python script that you just take any Wi-Fi capture, give the PCAP or Office Sidekick into this Python script, and it'll come back and say, here's your retry rate, here's your average data rate, here's your average MCS. Change that MBR, capture, run the script again, and you will get those answers. So if you don't know how to do that, Google Brian Long. He's on my website, WLANpros.com. He spoke a couple of times. You have to do a packet capture, but hopefully it's fairly easy. Metageeks IPA will do it to you. Yeah. OmniPeak, Air Magnet, Wi-Fi Analyzer, anything you can do packet capture can show that to you.
Yeah, no, I've got the captures. I just wanted to see if there's something inside it that could actually really tell.
Yeah, I mean, every frame carries with it its MCS and data rate with it, but the only way to see it is to go and grab them.
Okay, another one right here.
Sorry guys, I don't know much about the 6G or that's coming out. Is that unlicensed as well? And what's stopping, as Old Mate said, the LTE or equivalency, moving into that as well and using that?
Yeah, it's unlicensed and nothing is stopping from anyone using that as well. So yes, 6 GHz is unlicensed.
In the FCC's ruling, they supported the reason why they came up with giving a whole, actually more than a gigahertz worth of channel to unlicensed, was specifically the economic benefit of Wi-Fi to the economy far exceeds anything they could have got by selling normally they have it in an auction. They could have auctioned 1 gig for probably close to $500 billion. And yet the economic benefit far exceeded the actual cash. And for a politician to turn down taxes, it had to be really pretty strong. So they're going to push really hard to not have anything that's money making in there because they see the economic benefit of free.
Depending, of course, who is, who has the power in the US at that point, and who his friends are, and what are the intentions.
Hi, that's a question for everyone. Do you think 11ax will help with high density designs and capacity and efficiency? And the second part of that question is, if not, do you think we should stop backward compatibility at some point?
Can we go like everybody answering your point there?
So could you repeat it, Eric? I've got the aircon noise right in my ear there.
So the everything?
Yeah, the bit about AX at the start. Yeah.
So AX, do you think AX will help in high capacity, high density designs, and for capacity and efficiency? And if not, do you think we need to end backward compatibility somewhere? Is it even if it's AX or Connex One?
Well, for me, I'm looking forward to AX and the efficiency it brings, and it's specifically the PHY layer is called high efficiency wireless. So you've got 802.11n was high throughput, HT. 802.11ac was very high throughput, the HT. All designed around improvements and efficiencies in terms of getting, faster throughput and packets moving faster through the air. Now they're taking a bit of a step back and reinventing the wheel. Mark talked about it a little bit earlier this morning and how it's changing the way that you handle subcarriers. So it's all about high efficiency. So yes, it's going to result in higher throughput if you've got clients that can get on and off the channel quicker, and different packets to different clients getting on and off through that channel quicker. That's going to be much better for high density designs. Pass it to the other guys to comment.
I think we'll see AX take off, but it's not really going to get, we can put as many APs out there on AX and it'll be a better APs, but better CPUs, all that sort of stuff, it'll improve, but it's not really going to go anywhere unless we get clients. And we didn't really get the AC Wave 2 clients, Apple didn't bother with it, they didn't enable it, it's in the chipset, isn't it yet? So as long as they go for it, then yes. So Apple moves, everyone follows. So that, if they move, we're good. And given the power saving things that are in it, wouldn't be surprised if they move, Samsung moves, Google moves, everyone then moves, and then we get enough AX clients that we start to see that good benefit.
So I think the first part of the question has probably been answered well.
Yep.
Should we drop backwards compatibility? My opinion is no. I think one of the great things about Wi-Fi is that you've got the backwards compatibility, and as Keith said, Wi-Fi works, right? I think that's a really key part of Wi-Fi. So in my opinion, backwards compatibility is really important to me.
I think there's not a chance in the world we'll lose backwards compatibility at AX, but I know of many groups who are lobbying to stop backwards compatibility in 6 gig. It's a good point in time to say we need new chips. Why are we? I mean, there's no transition to 6 gig. It is a new piece of hardware. Perfect time to make that decision. The efficiencies in AX are there, and it's only slightly there because we can have multiple people share the same preamble. In a slowest 807 AC 6.5 gig BPSK, the preamble takes longer than the payload because of backward compatibility. And then we have a CIFS and then another preamble and ACK. So we have 2 preambles just to deliver 1 frame today. That's why we're not efficient. We have to be backward compatible because Wi-Fi works. Let's take the chance we have now to make a jump. And the new chips could be 6 gig and AX and be backward compatible all at the same time.
Yeah, and it's not an either or thing to me, the benefits of AX and backward compatibility and all that. Backward compatibility is good, but it's going to be a curve where once, like these guys say, once the number of client devices exceeds that critical mass, whether it's, we don't really know in practice whether it's going to be 30 or 50%. But once you have that, your old clients will remain and operate normally, but the AX clients will be able to divide between subcarriers and just achieve those higher efficiencies. But you can imagine if you're waiting for 50% of the clients on a stadium to be AX compatible, and it will be at least a year before Apple releases their AX products, probably 2 years, and that's when there's 0.0 for Apple devices to be AX, and then it starts creeping up. It's going to take a while. That's what I'm saying.
Good stuff. Okay, questions at the back? Yeah.
I was going to say one thing too. I think that if you look at the time it took just for AC client compatibility to exist across the board, I think you're looking at, if the question is in part, do you go out and buy AX when it first comes out? It's your money, you can spend it, but if you're looking for an improvement in your network right then and there, it's not going to happen. You're probably looking at 3 years, 5 years before you really see the density of clients in the workplace to make it worthwhile, and that takes you to the 2nd gen of AX.
Yeah, and at the same time as 2nd gen AX, it's likely that 6 gig will come out at the same time, so that's going to be the revolution instead of the evolution.
One more point on that sort of draws back to what we were discussing earlier about web and just having that cutoff for support and saying, no, you can only do 54 megabits per second. So as Keith mentioned, I think hopefully they put some sense into opening up the 6 gigahertz band and put some limitations onto what sort of capabilities and devices can go in there and say, no, you can't have backwards compatibility links there. Make 6 gig, a pure high throughput spectrum usage.
This is one for probably vendors and Keith probably on the from WLA side. What are the vendors and Wi-Fi Association doing to try and push the Wi-Fi Alliance to actually do roaming interoperability testing?
They're not. I mean, I think it goes back to the fact that, you know, roaming algorithms are proprietary and, you know, vendors want to keep that tight, perhaps, because that's, you know, might be something that they want to keep to themselves. I don't know. How do you begin testing that even, right? You know, how many permutations of roaming could there possibly be between vendors, both on the client side and the station side? Like, is it even practical? That would be my question.
Yeah, the whole roaming algorithm piece being private, there's a reason for it. Like someone builds a voice handset, they want to have a certain experience when it roams, so they build an algorithm to sort of support that. And a tablet's going to have a different roaming sort of capabilities, they've got a different user experience to help. So that's why they're all different, and I don't know why they have to be secret, but proprietary I understand. But, you know, I don't think you're ever going to get cooperation on that.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be the nirvana if everyone did play along, but to sort of take a leap out of what Keith's comments are, what's the monetary motivation for them to get that interoperability? It doesn't benefit the Wi-Fi ones. They want the speed, they want to market the new fastest and greatest things and tie that into their marketing. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
I suppose just talking about some of the future technologies then, that we've talked about AX, what are the next things that you guys want to see? I know that we've talked about 6 gig coming. Are there any technologies that you guys, I suppose, as vendors, as people that work closely with the Wi-Fi Alliance, anything that you would like to see come from the industry that is exciting?
I'll take one. 60 gigahertz. So 802.11ad. I was expecting it to have already hit also the indoor enterprise, and for high density, high capacity, you know, limited areas. It is sure it doesn't penetrate walls, maybe not even wallpaper. But with 60 gigahertz, you can achieve really high throughput, you know, in very limited areas. And I was expecting to see it indoors. But the only thing we've seen so far in terms of commercial access points has been Aruba's surprisingly outdoor point-to-point 60 gigahertz thingy, which is awesome that it's used somewhere. So I'd be curious to hear also your thoughts about, of course, anything else, but this as well.
Yeah, the 60 gig part is very interesting because it's a large swathe of spectrum we can use. Actually, in Australia it's not that much, we get one channel, but it is a wide channel, so we can push a couple of gig through it. The problem with it is, like indoors it's fantastic, because like it's, as you said, doesn't obviously go through wallpaper, but outdoors it's impacted by oxygen, like it resonates with the oxygen level. So there's limitations on distance, but over a short distance of 500 meters, we can get a couple of gig out of it. So we can solve those sort of, I can't run fibre to something because it costs $1 million to dig up the road, bang up a couple of point-to-points and I get sort of a gig link anyway. So for me that's kind of cool, but I don't know of anything else that's anything else.
Just to expand on that 60 gigs discussion, your AP is 802.11ad.
Yes.
Right, so 802.11ad it's been around for a while, just surprisingly it's the first time to actually implement it, but 802.11ay is closely following its heels with a lot of enhancements around it. So for instance, like MIMO and multiple spatial streams for 802.11ad type scenarios with 60 gigahertz, and I think it's going to open it up to indoor usage. So that would be fascinating to see. And we've sort of touched with Matt's presentation about location and how that's measured. I'm really curious to see how that plays with 802.11ax and having different resource units and subcarriers and different fluctuating values of SNR for specific subcarriers and resource units, and whether that's going to actually improve the way that we can do location. I haven't seen anything about that. I don't know if these guys have seen anything about how that might play, but that's something that I'm looking forward to. It could be really, really useful in helping to improve location. communication accuracy.
Yeah, I think on the hardware or the RF side, I think just general complementary radio technology. So, you know, for the last few years we've seen Bluetooth beacons appearing in access points. Now that might become IoT gateways, so that other radio technologies use the wireless access point as a gateway to the wired network. So I think that's something interesting we might see over the next little while. And then I think outside of the RF and the hardware, I think at the software layer, the analytics and the health is going to be a big theme across all vendors. And I think just open programmability and whether it's communicating via APIs, with scripting, but providing that data out of the system to other systems, I think that's a big trend that's going to be in Wi-Fi 2.
I've got another question. We discussed earlier about the backward compatibility. So if you agree or not agree, I have another question from another point of view. If 11ax clients out there and started to appear on the market, do the 1611AC Wave 2 client are going to be, does multi-user MIMO Wave 2 support is going to be enabled now on those access points? I'm asking this question is because maybe we can expect the life to have more life cycle of those existing Wave 2, 11AC Wave 2 access point infrastructure. So if 11AC AX clients suppose don't not be able to use them. I just question.
So to just answer first part of the question, supposedly we don't have any yet. Yeah. AX client should be backward compatible to AC, Wave 2, multi-user MIMO capable, as well as in the beginning multi-user downstream capable, and perhaps in the future they'll add upstream on AX. So we're not there. So that they will be AC capable. The whole idea about multi-user MIMO though, without any of the AX features, is it's a if, who cares? There's too many ifs. They have to be in the right position spatially. They have to have a frame at the exact simultaneous time to send. The frames have to be the same size. They have to be in the same MCS. And if I split my MU MIMO, I'm going to lower my SNR to each of them so they'll actually slow down. So do I really want to, if all those things are happening, I have a chance of maybe talking to two clients at the same time slow. Yeah, plus all the sounding overhead just cuts it away. So until AX, MU MIMO is kind of like 8-stream. It's been proven, it does work, but only in the lab.
Sorry, just another point on that. OFDMA and AX will provide a lot more of those efficiencies that the marketing speaker around MIMO spoke to. So what everyone expected to get out of MIMO and multi-user MIMO, it's only really going to be realised with OFDMA.
Gents, thank you so much for the presentation, all of you. Great day. My question is around the pre-shared key. Will there be a time that the vendors get rid of it? If it's available, the clients will use it. But because being lazy, it's there, we use it. So mostly the vulnerabilities we are looking into, hacking and yeah, all of that.
I think we're stuck with pre-shared key for a long time. And it's because, in part, there's not a consensus on what an alternative should be. Is it the best choice? Clearly not. And we should try and use the other alternatives as much as we can. But I think that moving forward, there will be some level of alternate. I mean, we're talking WPA3 now. It's all hardware. You're going to see that coming out with the AX. When the AX gets in place and more clients are out there, that'll be, from a handshake perspective, a good security. But I think that ultimately we're going to look at some form of multi-factor authentication with Wi-Fi to get to that next security level.
Thanks.
This question is about the new 6 GHz spectrum and its implementation. So do you think it's going to be implemented as a separate radio with its own radio transmitter, its own antenna, turning access points really into a tri-band access point, and clients into tri-band, plus all the other things they do. So an extra set of radios, an extra set of antennas sticking on top of all these access points. So we're going to have an awful lot of antennas.
At this point in time, it's unknown, but the easy answer would be yes, I'd expect that. So unless vendors start making cheap software definable radios and antennas that can cover multiple bands and spectrums, then it's still going to be more cost effective for them to have separate dedicated radios or even flexible radios that can switch between bands, like we do now with dual 5 gig APs. But I still think it's going to be, I mean, it really depends on timeframes, right? So it's only just been announced that the FCC is going to approve it. It could easily take 5 years before we see 6 GHz being used in the market for client support and access point support. Because you've got to have this globally accepted worldwide, not just for the FCC regulatory domains. You've got to have everyone on board for it to make it feasible and achievable, and have the Wi-Fi Alliance and the IEEEs working together on the standards for it.
It's true. We at least have to change antennas because they're all cheap. They're not going to go that way. So I see it as hardware. And even new sidekicks that would support it.
Yeah, that's a good question too. I'll get to that too. So I was talking
new
with
sidekicks. Good idea.
I was talking with one of the with the person who heads the AP division of one of the major vendors, and I asked the very same question actually 2 weeks ago, and one of the takeouts was we don't know. Second one was if it's a tri-radio or if there's even AD in there. What about the power? I mean, it's gonna eat a lot of power, man. Yeah, I mean, projectors got that big, so why not APs as well? I mean, maybe we'll see that size of APs at some point, and then you'll need your own, power plant, nuclear power plant to load it. But then there's no nuclear submarines as well, so why not?
Anybody?
Oh, one thing about Sidekick, as Anthony takes the mic there. So as Sidekick already supports AX by nature. Sidekick has two 802.11ac 3x3 radios. However, just like N adapters were really good at serving AC, similarly AC radios are really good at passively surveying AX. So we are already with beta software, we are surveying AX using the existing Sidekick. So you're good for AX with your Sidekick, but definitely once 4 or 5 years goes by and you have 6 GHz networks, then it's time to buy a boatload of twice as expensive Sidekicks from Anthony. You laugh now.
In Australia, we don't have the best internet. It's a legacy of only having one carrier for a long time. Although we've got the NBN, it's been moved from fibre to the node to fibre to the curb. I've been to 20 sites where there has been NBN and only one is actually good. So typically we get slow internet, or we get internet that has a lot of errors on the link. What can we do on our wireless networks to help them deal with this? And what is good proof for the customer to show them that it's not the wireless network?
There's already been some good examples today of how you can prove it's not the network. Keith has brought up some good examples. Even Matt's gone into it from a network troubleshooting standpoint. So you've got a bunch load of tools that you can use. Ekahau, you can do surveys, you can do packet captures, you can use monitoring tools like Adrian Granadis' Wi-Fi signal to see whether you've got a good MCS rate and compare it to a speed test to narrow down whether it's actually a Wi-Fi issue or a backhaul issue. So through this community of Wi-Fi professionals, there's a lot of knowledge sharing and there's a lot of learning that you can do to figure out, to prove that it's not a Wi-Fi problem. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot, especially now that we're moving into the insurance space and mental health, as Matt mentioned, from the vendor spaces, proving that mean time to innocence, that it's not a Wi-Fi problem, and then as an extension, it's not a network problem, so it's beyond the wireless to the wired and everything. So as best as we can get to our realms of what we're responsible for and controlling, and the better that we educate about how to use those tools and present it to customers, then that's the best that we can do. We still can't control the bottlenecks there in the backhaul.
But is there something we can do on our settings to make the wireless network better deal before we get
yeah. I have this saying I should have put up there as another one of those little 50 sayings. The world's best Wi-Fi looks terrible with a bad backhaul. Great backhaul makes the world's worst Wi-Fi look really good. So you could have literally, I showed you, you cannot get better than 867 with that AP, but the backhaul is 1 meg. We just need to be able to show it to our customers. There's nothing, I mean, Wi-Fi is a transport. If it comes in as the Ethernet frame that's already corrupted, we can't fix it. So basically, to answer your question, no, there's nothing we can do in wireless to improve bad backhaul.
With the acquisition, is there anything in the pipeline to give a friendly, non-technical person some sort of ability to effectively run speed test and work out whether it's the Wi-Fi or the backhaul, or to get the questions the Wi-Fi sucks or the internet sucks?
Just gonna say two things. A, I'm not allowed to comment any roadmap items, and second, and B, stop reading my mind.
Actually, just on that, should we do the Ookla cat test over here? Yep, wake these guys up a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just so you know, if you have the speed test app and you press the go button for the longest time, it will start vibrating, and then you will get an Easter egg. So something for you guys maybe to try out later tonight.
If you have an iPhone, you can
on the iPhone,
test.
on the iPhone, not on Android. Sorry.
You gotta hold down the button for about 20 seconds.
But I think some of the router and probably access point vendors are actually customers of Ookla, and they can initiate a speed test from the AP to the internet to do that exact thing, to compare how the network connection is without the wireless. So there is some of that happening. And if some of the Wi-Fi vendors want to get on that boat, I'm sure Ookla would like to happily sell you their 8,000 test servers, access to those.
And so just on the WAN question as well, so one of the things Mist has is a WAN SLA, so it constantly monitors the latency jitter of the WAN link, so that tells you when you've got a problem. I think, and throughput too. I think the other thing is it's a good case for end-to-end quads as well. So ensure that your markings are reserved all the way and that they're prioritized at the WAN edge as well.
Okay, question up the back.
What authentication and encryption will be employed by WPA3? And also, how do you propose to do multi-factor authentication in a public hotspot scenario?
That's a good question, and I think it's to be determined. I don't know. We don't, for example, have a specific roadmap on how you're going to do two-factor with public Wi-Fi. But there are smart minds working in Wi-Fi. Every one of us is aware that all of these security threats exist, and we have to come to a consensus among the manufacturers on how we want to deal with it pretty soon. We can't let it be a competitive advantage or competitive disadvantage for one company or another, which is what it is right now. So that's among the manufacturers to sort of get their heads together and pull them out of certain places so that they can actually work to make Wi-Fi safer for everyone. Until that kind of a consensus happens, I think we're stuck in this sort of limbo of poor protection on the part of the users. As far as the encryption for WPA3, I think we're still looking at AES. So I don't think the encryption, as far as I know, the encryption isn't.
It's Sweetmeat's optional.
Oh, it isn't?
Yeah, there's a couple of tweaks, but
There's a couple of tweaks in WPA3 to improve it from a couple of attacks, but nothing substantial.
Does it address the MS chip v2 weakness?
I don't know the answer. I'd have to look it up.
That's inside the each session. So the fact that there is a MS chat vulnerability doesn't really matter because it's inside the secure tunnel already.
As long as it is.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be using the other one, should you? Clowns at the back need to be quiet, Matthew.
Still using WAPs though.
Question over here?
Kind of a question. Have you used Cloud Check, and is that sort of what old mate was asking around? It sort of speeds tests to the Wi-Fi and then out to the internet as well and gives different results. I don't know. Yeah, there you go.
The answer, I run Cloud Check all the time. I don't trust the wireless side of it, but it's giving me some number. It's doing some magic opening up on port. If you check on the packet capture, it's doing a UDP, I think port 45 to the AP, and the AP is rejecting it. And from that transaction, it's calculating a number. I know it's wrong because with the packet capture, I can actually see the data rate going out, and it's not right. But the ratio between the two is a really helpful piece of information. My me to the AP is fast, out to the AP is slow, I can tell. So Cloud Check's the first one I've seen that's even getting close to answering that question. On my Mac, I use Adrian's tool, and I look at MCS versus outbound data rate. Cloud Check on iOS is the only tool I have that even get me close to the information. So I don't trust the answer, but within even an order of magnitude, it's helping me make a decision. So the app's called Cloud Check. It does a speed test out to the internet, and it does a test local to your AP.
Yeah, there's another one that tries to do the same. That's called Wi-Fi sweet spots, and it shows the throughput from client to AP only. Same company. Okay. Sorry. And you know, as long as there's people here, I think we should be getting questions. As long as and it's not even passed, and as long as you guys stay awake and on your chairs. So keep those questions coming. And those of you that don't want to ask any more questions, I think the bar is opening in like 3 minutes or something, so you can start fading towards that direction. We
Hang on.
totally understand.
Before they go, they need a bracelet. What is it? What do you call it?
Oh,
they need something from us. They can't just go stand.
Oh, okay, so talk to Danielle before you go. Otherwise, you'll have to pay for the drinks, and we don't want that to happen. Daniela has promised to pay for the drinks, right? Thank you so much. on my credit card. Awesome.
I actually have an answer to one of those questions. You can just run an iPerf server locally on the network, and then you can eliminate your backhauls being a problem. But there's also a little piece of hardware called WLAN Pi. It's about $100, $150. 70 US? Yeah, so 150 Australian.
It's a good response, but I guess Hayden's point was how do we make it easier for end users to use something like speed tests? Everyone knows speed tests. You don't have to be an IT expert to use speed tests. So it would be cool to get something like a local iPerf test between your device and your local LAN or an access point, and then go one step further with what speed test already does. I guess that's the end goal, right?
And I believe some of the operators are providing that in some countries, stuff like that. But it requires this kind of hack apps that semi-hack apps that only work on Android, or then cooperation from the router or AP side to measure that reliably. There's no global application that does that today well. Next question.
Next question.
Sorry, a bit of a... anyway, what are your thoughts on AO211b's ability to deauth clients and encourage them to roam? And have you seen that be a problem in real world before?
I'll let the vendors take a hit at it because they all have different solutions for it. clients don't like to be de-auth. But because of the way the protocol is written, the clients are making all roaming decisions, and our infrastructure vendors are trying to influence that by doing things. And it's how soft, how hard you can do that. Good design overcomes that a lot of times. But I'll let the vendor guys talk about how they go about doing that.
Well, the key point to consider is it depends on the device support, right? So if it doesn't support 802.11b, then there's not going to be anything smooth about that.
I mean, under the assumption that all devices support it.
Yeah, fair point. So, can't really go into secret source stuff, but just at a high level, like each vendor tries to do things. It's like the band select discussion, right? Every vendor does band select for that form of trying to steer clients to different bands in a different way. So other vendors have different ways to use 802.11k R&D, either sometimes in conjunction or separately, using different algorithms in the backend to try and make it smoother and more seamless to the client device. But you know, we can't cater for every single device and how every device handles that. So, you know, even channel switching applications, the way that the vendor from an AP point of view handles that and does that to, you know, move away from a DFS event on an AP, you know, that can impact clients completely differently as well.
My experience in this is that a lot of the poor roaming decisions can be fixed with good channel and power design. And a lot of people jump into these features too quickly before looking at just the design. And then the second point to that is, if let's say everything's perfect in the design and the client's still roaming poorly, my view is always, why would a poorly behaving roaming client behave well when it's de-auth? So, yeah, they're my 2 cents.
Yeah, and it's just, can't emphasize that more, the basics. Like we saw today, no 5 gigahertz coverage at all. Yesterday I was at the headquarters here in Australia of one of the big Wi-Fi vendors, and I had a brand new MacBook Pro, which is pretty good at understanding where to associate. I was associated on super crowded 2.4, although there was a 5 available, but the 2.4 was just so much more received at so much more higher signal strength that you know, that was it. 5 gigahertz was empty. There was APs there, but it was unutilized.
That goes to Keith's point about putting more on SSID than you have 5 gig. It really does make sense to run 2 separate SSIDs as opposed to deal with the band steering aspects. You get less return on your investment by doing that than you do having separate SSIDs. You know, and that way also it helps you segregate. You know, there are, especially in areas like Southeast Asia, where 2.4 is still prevalent. I happened to be in a partner meeting where there were 10 techs just like you that were sitting there, and I'm talking about, yeah, we always want to design for 5 gigahertz and then we'll fill in with 2.4. Who here doesn't have a 5 gigahertz capable device? All 10 hands went up. They're all running old 2.4 only devices. And so we can't completely forget about it, but if you're in a mixed environment, why not segregate those and make sure that the 2.4 onlys predominantly are on the 2.4 and the 5 gig stay predominantly on the 5 gig. And you can do that easily by segregating them with SSID.
Okay, I think we got time for the last question before we go drink.
Make it a good one, guys.
And then we've got the draw as well. Any last questions? Okay, one.
Just be interested in your thoughts on the single channel virtual cell approach that Maru was pushing a while ago and now 14
Let me start by just saying that there's a certain amount of frequency space and thus certain amount of bits that can be crammed in that space. So if you use a single channel, you have less bits and bytes going through the air than if you use more channels. However, for example, for roaming, these kind of semi-proprietary special solution can be awesomely good, because the single channel, for example, with Meru also means that the client is receiving a single MAC address from all the APs all the time. So in a sense, it doesn't roam over the air at all.
You want someone from Fortinet to answer that question?
Hi, I'm actually from Fortinet. So it's really good in that situation where you want seamless roaming, because it will roam in 3 milliseconds, and it takes that roaming decision away from the client. And as I said, there's only so much airtime available, so it's probably not as recommended if it's a very high density situation. But if you want seamless roaming, so warehouses are a good example where they've got forklifts on, iPads on forklifts going in and out of freezers, all those sorts of things, and they're running apps. SAP is probably one example, but it's not the only one. Any little bit of downtime and those apps disconnect, and often they need to reboot those tablets or the iPads to get the connection back. So they really need that seamless roaming, and that's where it really comes into its own.
It's a really neat trick, and as long as your capacity stays within the limits, great. The only problem with single channel is when you max the capacity, and like you said, there's only so many bits. They do some really cool tricks to get rid of a lot of the randomness and a lot of the dead airtime that's in standard AH11. When you hit that capacity, you have to go to a 2x cost. And so as long as you're under that, life's good. But with Fortinet, even Meru, before they got bought, they also support MCA as well.
Use SCA until you can't.
Okay, that's it, guys. So thank you very much for being part of the first ever Ekahau Asia Pacific Wi-Fi Day.